Galactic Nexus Station Alpha was the crowning jewel of interspecies bureaucratic complexity, a gleaming testament to order, ritual, and meticulous regulation. Every surface gleamed with sterile perfection. Not a speck of dust dared settle on the pristine floors or walls that hummed with the soft vibrations of thousands of life support systems. Communication here followed strict protocols. Exactly 172 approved tonal variations depending on the rank of whoever you addressed. And the rigid social hierarchy was preserved with religious fervor. It was, as Ambassador Vlix often crystallized, the perfect representation of galactic harmony. Today, however, that harmony was under unprecedented strain. The station's upper echelons were in a state of barely contained panic as they prepared for the arrival of the first official representative from Sol 3, colloquially known throughout the galaxy as Earth. The designation had recently been upgraded to Gamma Prime Deathworld after extensive surveillance revealed a planet racked by continuous natural disasters, biodiversity that seemed designed specifically to consume itself, and a dominant species that somehow thrived in this chaotic environment. In the primary observation deck's private chamber, High Commissioner Vlix, a crystalline entity whose facets shimmered with complex thought patterns, hovered anxiously beside Security Chief Grok, a four-armed reptilian whose scales tensed visibly beneath his ceremonial armor. They watched as Ritual Master ZK, an insectoid being with delicate sensory antennae, meticulously arranged the welcome artifacts according to the 7,000th protocol of First Contact. I have reviewed all available footage from their world, Grok rumbled, his voice tuned to the exact frequency of permitted concern. The human species engages in recreational activities that would kill most sentient beings. They deliberately jump from high altitudes with fabric devices, swim in toxic bodies of liquid for pleasure, and ingest substances that cause temporary neural impairment for socialization purposes. Their physical resilience is concerning. Vlix harmonized, light patterns shifting across their crystalline form. The report suggests they can continue functioning with damaged limbs, perforated organs, and significant blood loss. Our preliminary assessment indicates they may possess redundant systems or exceptional regenerative capabilities. ZDK's mandibles clicked in a ceremonial pattern indicating scholarly caution. The representative will almost certainly be their apex warrior specimen. Preliminary security protocols suggest a being encased in advanced armor, possibly integrated with their biological systems. They may deploy weaponized technology or perhaps exhibit telepathic offensive capabilities. The security screens displayed the approach of the Earth vessel. Everyone present had expected a battle-scarred warship, bristling with weapons. Instead, what appeared on the screen was perplexing. The craft looked like it had been cobbled together from several different technologies. Its main body resembled a primitive wheeled habitat module, retrofitted with oversized propulsion systems that seemed disproportionate to its frame. Crudely painted on its side was the designation, the Wanderer. It approached the docking bay with alarming irregularity, veering slightly off recommended approach vectors. Activate planetary-class shields around the docking area, Grok ordered, all four hands moving across security interfaces. Deploy containment field generators and have medical on standby for potential contamination protocols. The craft clumsily docked, snapping a decorative communications antenna and bypassing half the mandatory safety checks, which sent the control room into minor panic. Vlix emitted calming harmonic frequencies as ZZK hurriedly consulted the emergency First Contact addendum. A tense silence fell over the observation deck as the airlock on the Earth vessel cycled open. The gathered representatives from 27 galactic species leaned forward, some extending sensory organs, others activating defensive fields. The being that emerged was so unexpected that several automated translation systems momentarily glitched. Instead of an armored colossus or tentacled horror, a human female of approximately 35 Earth years stepped out. She wore loose hiking pants with numerous pockets, a casual shirt printed with a cartoon spacecraft and the text, "My other ride is the Millennium Falcon," and well-worn hiking boots. She was adjusting sunglasses perched on her head and finishing what appeared to be a packet of spicy pork rinds. "Hey, folks," she called out cheerfully, waving at the stunned observation room. "Hope I didn't keep anyone waiting. Traffic was a nightmare near Jupiter, some kind of solar wind thing. I'm Chloe Martinez, Earth's official representative. Nice place you got here." The silence that followed was so profound that the ambient hum of the station's life support systems seemed deafening in comparison. The awkwardness only intensified during the official reception that followed. ZZK had prepared an elaborate 27-step greeting ritual involving precise movements, specific pheromone releases, and harmonized tonal recitations. Chloe, completely oblivious to these expectations, strode directly up to the insectoid being with her hand extended. "Great to meet you. Love the whole exoskeleton thing you've got going on. Super practical." ZZK froze in mid-ritual, mandibles clacking in confusion as Chloe moved on to Grok before he could recover. "Wow, awesome scales," she exclaimed, examining the security chief's armored hide with genuine admiration. "Is that natural coloration, or do you enhance it? Either way, looks badass." Grok's 4 arms remained rigidly positioned in the formal greeting stance, even as his reptilian eyes widened in shock at the casual terminology and unauthorized proximity. When Chloe reached Vlix, she whistled appreciatively. "Amazing. You're like a walking diamond. Must be handy at parties. Built-in disco ball. Do you ever need dusting?" The crystalline entity vibrated at a frequency that the automated translators interpreted as profound diplomatic uncertainty. The reception hall had been prepared with a vast array of specially formulated consumables designed to accommodate hundreds of different biological structures. Elegant serving drones hovered near tables laden with nutrient gels, energy crystals, concentrated mists, and various other substances that constituted fine dining in the galactic community. Chloe accepted a small plate and politely sampled several offerings, her expression growing increasingly perplexed. "This is interesting," she managed after tasting a luminescent purple gel. "Kind of tastes like cardboard that's been left in the rain. No offense." After a few more disappointing attempts, she reached into her backpack and pulled out a large thermos and a plastic container. "Always bring backup. That's what my Uncle Mitch taught me. Anyone want to try some real Earth cuisine? Got strong coffee and leftover chili from last night. Fair warning, it's pretty spicy." The offer sent ripples of alarm through the gathering. Initial chemical analysis had already flagged both caffeine and capsaicin as highly toxic to at least 14 of the species present. A Melmatian diplomat discreetly activated their personal neutralization field. Throughout the reception, Chloe continued to generate waves of cultural misunderstandings. She casually mentioned a recent hailstorm on Earth, golf ball-sized ice chunks falling from the sky, did at my neighbor's satellite dish, causing 3 delegates from low-gravity worlds to momentarily lose consciousness as they contemplated the kinetic impact. When she spotted an elaborate 3-dimensional display showcasing historic galactic treaties, she asked if it was like space cable TV. The archivist present emitted sounds that the translation systems struggled to interpret. At one point, she accidentally activated a sonic cleaning field designed for fragile silicon-based life forms while attempting to wipe a smudge off her boot, causing a nearby delegate to emit a high-pitched keening of discomfort. Standing at the edges of the gathering, Ambassador Kthar of the isolationist Rylac Confederation observed with barely concealed disgust. The tall, gaunt figure with paper-thin gray skin and large, judgmental eyes saw in Chloe's casual demeanor confirmation of everything the Rylac had been saying about the danger of including primitive species in galactic affairs. "The human's behavior merely confirms our assessment," Kthar whispered to an aide. "Unrestrained, chaotic, lacking even the most basic understanding of proper conduct. Their inclusion would be a corruption of our standards." Chloe, meanwhile, had gathered a small, confused audience as she attempted to explain the concepts of potluck dinners and chili cook-offs to them. "So everyone brings a dish they made, and then you all share?" But there's no standardized nutrient profile, no contamination protocols, asked a gelatinous being through its translator. That's the fun of it, Chloe replied enthusiastically. You get to try everyone's cooking. My friend Dave makes this amazing 5-alarm chili with ghost peppers that'll clear your sinuses for a week. Though I guess some of you folks don't have sinuses. Kthar made a show of physically recoiling, membranes fluttering in disgust. The reception might have continued in this vein of awkward cultural exchange, if not for what happened next. A subtle shift in the station's ambient sound preceded a series of increasingly urgent alert tones. Displays throughout the reception hall flickered momentarily, and several environmental indicators shifted from their usual calming blue to a cautionary amber. Atmospheric. Processing anomaly detected, announced the station's AI in a soothing voice clearly designed not to cause panic. Diagnostic protocols initiated. Please continue normal activities. Most of the guests attempted to follow this advice, though their sensory appendages betrayed increasing anxiety. ZZK immediately assembled a small cluster of technical advisors, who began discussing the proper committees needed to address the situation. We must first convene the Technical Assessment Board, ZZK insisted, mandibles clicking rapidly. They will determine if this warrants the formation of Emergency Protocol Subcommittee 7C, which is authorized to recommend actions to the Station Integrity Oversight Panel. Grok, more practically minded, began deploying security measures, though his efforts were hampered by regulations requiring multiple authorization codes. Containment fields are on standby, but I need approval from 3 separate administrative divisions before full deployment. Vlix attempted to calm the station's consciousness by emitting harmonizing frequencies, though the crystalline entity's own uncertainty caused dissonant patterns. Throughout this escalating situation, Chloe had been observing with casual interest, sipping her coffee. She noticed a maintenance robot nearby, its indicator lights blinking in what seemed like an agitated pattern. With mild curiosity, she wandered over. "Hey, little guy, something wrong with the systems?" she asked. The robot's translation matrix conveyed a stream of technical jargon about plasma conduit regulators and bypass valve sequencing failures. Most of it meant nothing to Chloe, but certain phrases caught her attention. "Wait, did you say pressure buildup in the secondary coolant system? That doesn't sound good." While the various officials continued their discussions about forming the appropriate response committees, Chloe casually approached a public information terminal nearby. With surprising ease, she bypassed the basic security protocols, skills honed from years of circumventing streaming service restrictions, and accessed the station's technical schematics. Let's see. Atmospheric processing. Coolant systems. Ah, there's the problem, she muttered to herself. Faulty regulation valve in junction 47B, and the automatic repair protocols are locked in a verification loop. Classic. Glancing around and seeing everyone absorbed in their increasingly frantic discussions, Chloe made a decision. She approached the maintenance robot, and with a friendly pat on its casing, borrowed its tool kit. Ignoring the flashing, unauthorized access warnings, she pried open a service panel near the environmental controls. What confronted her was a complex maze of energy conduits, plasma regulators, and cooling systems, all operating on principles somewhat different from Earth technology, but recognizable enough in function. The problem was immediately apparent to her experienced eye. A primary valve had failed in the closed position, causing pressure to build in the secondary systems. The automated systems were attempting repairs, but were following protocols too rigid to address the cascading failures. "Right, time for some good old-fashioned human engineering," Chloe muttered. She pulled a multi-tool from her pocket. She never traveled anywhere without it, and set to work. With a calculated kick to dislodge a stuck mechanical component, what she would later describe as percussive maintenance, and some precise rewiring to manually override the faulty valve, she redirected the plasma flow through an auxiliary conduit. Sparks flew dramatically, lights flickered intensely, then stabilized. The warning tones ceased. The station's AI announced with a note of surprise, "Atmospheric anomaly resolved." Manual override initiated. Source, unidentified. Chloe wiped the lubricant from her hands onto her pants. There, that should hold it. You guys really should have better backup systems. She returned the borrowed toolkit to the maintenance robot, who spun its optical sensors in what might have been gratitude or shock. The assembled dignitaries, including Grok and ZK, stared at her in stunned silence. Thar's expression had transformed from disgust to outrage that a barbarian had resolved the situation. What? Chloe asked, noticing their stares. That valve was about to blow. Would have taken out this whole section's atmosphere in about 10 minutes. No big deal, just needed a little hands-on approach. The aftermath of Chloe's impromptu engineering intervention was a flurry of formal investigations, emergency council meetings, and bewildered technical reviews. The station's most senior engineers confirmed what Chloe had casually diagnosed. A critical failure in the atmosphere processing system had been moments away from causing a catastrophic decompression event in the diplomatic sector. Grok, after reviewing the security footage and system logs, approached Chloe with a grudging respect. Your intervention was effective, the security chief admitted, scales shifting in a pattern indicating uncomfortable admiration. Though it violated 17 separate safety protocols and 32 station regulations. Yeah, but we're all still breathing, so I'd call that a win, Chloe replied with a grin, offering a fist bump that Grok stared at in confusion. ZZZK was less approving, mandibles clicking in agitation. The proper procedures exist for reasons. Establishing the Emergency Response Committee would have taken too long. Grok interrupted, surprising everyone present. The human's assessment of the time frame was accurate. The system would have failed before authorization protocols were completed. Even Vlix, who had initially been alarmed by Chloe's chaotic energy patterns, now emitted frequencies suggesting a reevaluation. There is a harmonious discord to your approach, the crystalline entity observed. An effective chaos. The station's attitude toward the human representative began to shift. The fear and apprehension that had greeted her arrival were giving way to cautious curiosity and awkward admiration. Delegates who had earlier kept their distance now approached with questions about manual override techniques and practical risk assessment methodologies rather than Earth's weapons capabilities. A quantumian physicist, whose species communicated through probability equations, hesitantly asked Chloe about the philosophy of redundant systems, while a collective consciousness composed of microscopic organisms inquired about the concept of improvisation in critical situations. Chloe did her best to explain fundamental engineering principles from human perspective. Look, it's pretty simple. If something looks like it's about to explode, you either hit it or rewire it. You don't form a committee. This concept, while borderline heretical to many of the protocol-bound species, was also strangely revolutionary. She introduced concepts like duct tape, WD-40, and the good old percussive maintenance technique, explaining how Earth technology often relied on practical solutions rather than perfect theoretical models. Sometimes you just need to kick it the right way, she explained to a group of hovering orb beings who had no appendages for kicking but were nonetheless fascinated. Thar attempted to undermine Chloe's growing influence, formally protesting to the station council that her actions constituted reckless endangerment and technological sabotage. However, the evidence from the system logs clearly showed the impending failure and the effectiveness of her intervention. Grok, in an unprecedented move, openly defended the human's actions in council, resulting in Thar receiving a subtle but official reprimand. As the days passed, Chloe noticed increasingly amusing attempts by various species to emulate aspects of her behavior. A gaseous entity attempted to carry a multi-tool, difficult without solid appendages. A six-legged insectoid practiced the casual lean against wall posture, complicated by their different center of gravity. And a crystalline being similar to Vlix attempted to understand the emotional significance of offering someone coffee, concluding incorrectly that it was a dominance ritual involving voluntary poison consumption. On the 5th day of Chloe's stay, an emergency session of the Galactic Nexus Council was convened. The highest representatives of all member species gathered in the Grand Chamber, a space so formal that even the air seemed to circulate with bureaucratic precision. High Commissioner Vlix presided, their crystalline form positioned at the focal point of the chamber. We have convened to officially acknowledge the service rendered to this station by the Earth representative, Chloe Martinez. Vlix announced, light patterns shifting in the formal gratitude configuration. The incident has prompted a re-evaluation of Earth's status within the galactic community. ZZZK rose, mandibles arranged in the position of official proclamation. This council proposes that Earth be granted provisional membership status, rather than continuing under observation and isolation protocols. Furthermore, we formally request that Earth consider sending additional representatives with similar, practical problem-solving skills. Chloe, who had been advised to wear her most formal attire for the occasion, she'd managed to find a clean black t-shirt with only a small coffee stain on the collar, stood as tradition required. Thank you all. Earth would be honored to join your community, and I'm sure we can find plenty of people with practical problem-solving skills to send your way. She paused, then added with a smile, we've got whole planets of people who are good at figuring things out when stuff goes wrong. Are there truly many humans who share your capabilities? Asked a counselor from a methane-breathing Jovian collective. Chloe pulled out her phone, causing a minor stir as the primitive technology was recognized, and showed them a series of photos. Her uncle fixing a tractor with non-standard parts, her friend free-climbing a sheer rock face, her former co-workers handling an oil rig fire. Oh yeah, we got tons of people who just figure it out when things get bad. It's kind of an Earth thing. When you live on a planet where the weather might kill you, or the ground might open up, or some new virus wants to say hello, you get pretty good at improvising. The council members exchanged meaningful glances, suddenly recognizing the strategic value of a species accustomed to improvisation and high-risk operations, far beyond concerns about ceremonial impropriety. Over the following weeks, Chloe established herself on the station. She set up a small hydroponic garden near her quarters, growing various earth peppers that became objects of both fear and fascination. She taught Grok's security team some basic human self-defense moves, which they found strangely effective despite their different anatomies. Most popular was her weekly Fix It Friday, where she helped station residents repair personal devices that had malfunctioned. The strangest thing, confided a jellyfish-like entity to its clustermates, is that she doesn't even follow the technical manuals. She just looks at the device and somehow knows. Thar remained dissatisfied with the situation, but increasingly isolated as most delegates now viewed humans not as fearsome warriors, but as unpredictable problem solvers with dangerous but endearing capabilities. On a quiet afternoon, as Chloe was helping a maintenance robot realign its optical sensors, just a little adjustment here. Sometimes they need manual calibration. Her communication device chimed with a message from Earth. First technical exchange liaison on the way read the text from her old oil rig colleague Dave. Pack my best wrenches and industrial tape. Hope they've got decent beer up there. See you soon, partner. Chloe smiled to herself. The galactic nexus was about to get a lot more interesting, and probably a lot louder. As she walked back to her quarters, she passed the observation deck where she'd first arrived. The station hummed with its usual efficient precision, but something had changed. In a corner of the main hall, she noticed that someone had placed a small container labeled Emergency Repair Tools containing a roll of duct tape, a multi-tool that looked suspiciously like hers, and a handwritten note in careful alien script. When committees take too long. The galaxy was learning, and Earth was finally finding its place among the stars, not as conquerors or warriors, but as the people you want around when everything goes wrong. Chloe patted the wall affectionately. You ain't seen nothing yet, she told the station. Wait until they meet Dave.